All right, thank you for staying with the Monday Report. Town Hall session kicks off right now. We'd like to know your views. Is this a societal decay or an administrative failure? We're talking about mind-boggling figures. 2,379 children aged between 10 to 14 were impregnated. This is Nairobi alone. And by the figures are even worse in different places. In Homa Bay, it's 1,530, Kajiado, 1,496, Mandera, 1,370, and Bomet, 1,041. Those numbers are not looking too good. We'll find out why. I'd like to hear from you. Use the hashtag Monday Report. What is really going on? Let me introduce my guest real quick. Ruth Laibon Masha, CEO, National AIDS Control Council, is joining us live in Nakuru. Thank you for making time. Otoa Sifuna is joining us live from Tanzania online. He's a teacher. He'll tell us his experience as well. Thank you for making time. Maureen Murenga, an HIV activist, is joining us from Kisumu online as well. And Lucy Wanjiku, a teen mother, is with me here in studio. Thank you so much for making time. And Ruth, I'll start with you. These are mind-blowing figures, the ones we're seeing here. What are we missing as a people? Why do we have such colossal figures?
Thank you, Trevor. I think the issue of teenage pregnancy has been with us for a long time. And probably it is that we have not been very keen on the numbers. If you look at the data from 2015 to date, you find that we have actually had child mothers of around 1.6 million coming to our facilities. And as you just rightly said, the numbers, again, this year don't look so good. And for the last 3 years, although we are making some progress from 2018, we still seem not to be moving fast enough. So the numbers are there. And I think we must conclude that the teenagers today are facing 3 threats, especially in the health-related threats. One, of course, is the teenage pregnancy, gender-based violence, and also HIV and AIDS, and especially new infections that we don't speak about often. So, Trevor, those are some of the things that we must discuss and see whose business is it to end teenage pregnancy in this country.
Yeah, and that's
the school, the parents, or whose business is it?
Okay. And that's an interesting perspective you bring, Ruth. In fact, let me bring in Otoa Sifuna on this. Otoa, what are we missing and whose business is it to end teenage pregnancy? Are the teachers failing or are the parents failing?
Yeah, thank you so much, Trevor. I should, from the onset, make an inquiry if I'm audible enough.
You're clear.
I'm coming from... Yeah, thank you, and thank you, citizen, for this opportunity. Coming from Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, I've been following closely, Trevor, and it saddens me, especially the shocking statistics released today in regards to the number of our young boys and girls who have actually been impregnated. As teachers, we feel saddened that this is the state of affairs. But I just don't want to mince my words. From the very onset, I want to say that this is a reflection of a society that is morally decaying. And the parents, remember, Trevor, every time I've come on the show, I have pointed an accusatory finger at the Kenyan parent, the role played by the parent, the parental engagement. Trevor, COVID-19, these are actually what I can describe as the gestation period of COVID-19. Our students, you remember very well, last year somewhere, March, February, and if you count the number of months down the line, we are talking of now the reality of COVID-19 scenario coming to the limelight. This was the period, Trevor, that these boys and girls were actually under the custody of their mothers and father. And therefore, even as you do the statistics, look at Nairobi, look at Kajiado, look at what informs your thinking, that these are urban centers where the parent is so busy, like a bee, waking up very early in the morning to go and look for livelihood, but he or she has relegated. I'll be delving deep on that because it saddens me as Otoa Sifuna to see that the Kenyan parent is hands off and has relegated the duty of parentage to the teacher. The teacher is doing a wholesome job, whatever. And when you see students now even complain and start banning schools, because the Kenyan teacher does not relent. He's a firm teacher. He will instill discipline.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, Trevor, when the students are in school from January to December, this of teenage pregnancies, you will not hear of that.
Okay.
But anytime our students go home, they are under the surveillance of their parents.
Yeah.
We start witnessing such kind of shenanigan. Where is the Kenyan parent?
Okay. Lucy, you experienced motherhood as a teenager. Walk me through your journey. What was it like and what really happened? Was it peer pressure? Was it lack of parental guidance? Was it just curiosity? How did yours play out?
You know, no one, Trevor, no one girl goes and thinks, now I want to get pregnant, or now I'm ready to go get pregnant. You find yourself pregnant. And in my case, it was no different. I was in love. I had found a boyfriend. It was very interesting. All the message I had gotten was sex before marriage was bad, at church, at school, at home, but it wasn't. So what was missing here? And when I had these discussions with my boyfriend, he felt the same way. So we were two fools, but we thought we knew the whole story, we had the whole picture. And when now this was too much, 1 year down the line, and I'm thinking probably we need to start thinking of contraceptive, I find myself pregnant. It was right after high school. He didn't have a job, I didn't have a job. Was it curiosity? Was it peer pressure? For me, I just think it was love, but it was just unguided.
Yeah.
We were two teenagers who were not guided.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's the blame of one particular person. It's not the blame of my parents or his parents.
Yeah.
It's not the blame of our teachers. It's not the blame of the religious leaders. Somehow it's the blame of all of us of ourselves included, because we were not even asking questions to those who we could go and ask questions from, you know. I remember when I got pregnant, my mom asked, you mean, no, when I put it in Swahili, it's even better. Mkitembea hivyo mkishikana mkono amko mnaona chemist. But then what do I do when I see a chemist? But you see, this is a mom who wants
like your mom.
She wants the best for her daughter, but she doesn't know how to have this conversation.
Yeah.
So how can we instill this conversation right from when we are young, so that even when we have kids, now when I as a mom now, how do I now talk? I would start this conversation with my kids. How do I ensure that my daughter does not go through the same way that I went through, or my son does not do the same things that we did. But those conversations have to start from somewhere, and they can start from school or start from home, but we need people to be enlightened. So for me, I just feel it wasn't peer pressure. I just loved, I was a girl in love, and the boy was a boy in love. We were just misguided, and everyone expects you to even get into that trap the moment you start walking or being seen with a boy. I come from Dandora. I've been raised in Dandora. Here, people actually expect you as a girl not to go far. They expect you to get pregnant. They expect you to be a teen mom. Like, it's no shock. When it happens, they're like, we knew. So what? So what's next? You see, now that's an issue of the entire community. Because maybe my mom could not have this discussion, but someone else could, probably the neighbor. So when we throw the blame around, then I think we are missing the point.
And I'm interested in finding out what kind of guidance would you have wanted to hear, because you're saying that you were told indulging in sex is bad, but you didn't think so. I mean,
when I experienced it, it wasn't bad. That's what I'm trying to say. So what are you telling kids? What are you telling us in real sense? You can tell us something is bad, but I had someone saying, if you tell me this sugar is bad, and then I taste it, and it's not bitter, do you expect I want to go back and want to taste it again? And that's the whole thing when it comes to teenagers. You're exploring, you're experiencing life from like the first time. Everything for you is the first time. And I think for me, what I would have wanted was just someone who could walk with me and respond to my stupid questions, and not look at me as wanting to know too much than I should, and be honest that actually sex is not bad. it's what comes with it.
Yeah.
There are the consequences that come with it. And not judge me. You're not judging me. We are having a conversation the way you're having a conversation.
Okay.
So these are the things that could happen. Because it was very hard being a teen mom when both of us were unemployed. We used to live in this house that was 800 shillings and we could not raise 800 shillings to pay our rent. We got chased away 3 months later.
Okay.
By the time I got my son in 2011, I didn't have even a blanket in the hospital to wrap him. My mom was the one who came and paid the bills. You see, like, you're now giving me the real picture of the realities of teenage pregnancies. What are the consequences that come from it?
Yeah.
And I thought that was the whole picture until 3 months later, my son is getting sick constantly.
Yeah.
7 months later, just sheer luck, I go get tested and I test HIV positive. And we thought teenage pregnancy was the real issue, but it wasn't. I only had one boyfriend. And I thought going through the turmoils of life and, you know, being able to keep my son, because then what are we, I won't even start that conversation of abortion and all that.
Yeah.
But you are told from a young age that is a sin. But is it really? Because it has taken me 10 years for me to reclaim my life. That one single act took me 10 years before I could go back to school again.
Yeah.
I could get my finances in order. I could, you know, like things that would have come easier and earlier if I did not go through that route.
And these are not repercussions that you were told growing up?
No one told me. And you know, there's a way you tell. You're not telling to condemn. You're having a honest conversation, you know? That is what I think is missing.
Okay. Maureen, you've been dealing with the teenage moms, and what are we missing in the messaging? And Lucy has opened quite a Pandora's box there. What are we missing in the messaging to stop this from happening?
Thank you very much, Trevor. And I'll agree with Lucy that without giving proper information, it is wrong. I'll give you a little example of this mother who had told the child that when she's playing with boys, the boys should not see her panty. And so this girl liked playing with boys and she needed to climb a tree. So every time she climbed the tree, she removed her panties and put them down. So one day the neighbor told the mom that your daughter removes her panty when she's playing with boys. And when she was asked, she told the mom, you told me that the boys should not see my panty. So that's why I remove it and I leave it down as I climb the tree. And that is just, I think the mom was trying to pass some information to this daughter, but it was not like really accurate. We are not calling a spade. We keep, I think in discussions around sexuality are still deemed as a taboo in our community, and therefore we are not giving direct information. One of the girls I support, one time when she was pregnant, I told her, she was 12 years old, so I told her, I think you're pregnant. And she said, no, I'm not pregnant because I didn't sleep with anyone. And then I asked her, did you have sex? And she asked me, what is sex? And I explained to her what sex was. And she told me, yeah, we did that, but we were standing, we were not sleeping. Because what she knows is that asilale na mvulana, don't sleep around. So it is the way we package the information that is actually very, it's actually a violation of rights to these young people because the Constitution allows for right to accurate information. Another thing is that we also misinformed ourselves around sexuality education. From the data you have just mentioned, Trevor, sex is happening. When you're getting pregnant, it means sex is happening. It's happening uninformed, unprotected, and we call it risky sexual behavior. We had an opportunity to introduce sexuality education in school, but this was so politicized that we missed the opportunity to give information to these young people around their sexual health, around their sexual behavior, around their choices and the consequences around having sexual relations.
Okay.
So we had an opportunity, or we have an opportunity as a society, but we politicize everything, including that which will help our generations. Okay. So it's that kind of accurate information, saying it the way it is, that will actually help these young people.
Okay, let me bring up some statistics, and actually the drivers of one of the observations that were made on a graphic, the drivers of this teenage pregnancy, and one of them was to have a conversation, an open conversation with the people. And Masha, let me bring you in on this. So what do you say to the young people? Because we're talking about age of 10 to 14. One of the issues that is there is that there's inaccurate reproductive health information. So, Masha, how accurate can you be?
Reality of the situation you are in, especially when you look at teenage pregnancy, and as just as you heard from Lucy, that sometimes that teenage pregnancy comes with HIV, and it's then become a double jeopardy for this child. So when we talk about information, our information, how we package that information, we must start rethinking the strategies. Maureen has just mentioned that sometimes as we think about what to provide, what we call age-appropriate information to our young people, we tend to think it from our own lens sometimes. But the question is, how bold enough can we become? And that is the conversation you're beginning to open up, Trevor. I'm not going to say that we are bold enough as currently as we are, but this is a question of where do we want to go moving forward. If you look at the figures that have not moved from 2018, 2019, now we're in 2020, 2021 has gone and is going to end, and we're in the same situation. So we must rethink that information. And for me, age-appropriate information around sexuality is very, very important. And that's a conversation that we must begin to have. Lucy talks about honest conversation. And on my end, I think honest conversation comes in, especially when the child asks you a question as an adult. Are we ready to answer the question without falsehood? And that is where we have to come in as parents, as religious leaders, as teachers, even basic questions like where does a child come from? So if you tell a 6-year-old the child is bought, therein lies that misconception. And the day she realizes the truth, then you don't become a source of information. So we have to repackage that information. Back to the discussion of not just having me as a parent or you as a stakeholder, but the entire policy level discussion. How do we package our information? What are we learning from other countries that are beginning to see downward trends in African region that have the same cultural values, taboos like ourselves? We need to begin that conversation. What is the role of men, for example, in stemming gender-based violence? Today we had somebody from Swaziland, Eswatini, sorry, who was telling us that they think they've won the war against teenage pregnancy because they are having men come out and be the ones to champion the end of teenage pregnancy. So these are the kind of conversations we must have moving forward, Trevor.
Yeah, over. But should we have stiffer repercussions then?
Trevor, I think for us, as you look at policies around the world and also studies that have been conducted, providing accurate information and services has not been seen or been documented to encourage sexual activity. In fact, it is the opposite. So where the children are informed, like what Lucy is saying, you know that this is not just sex for enjoyment, but there are consequences to a sexual act. Then you begin to see them making choices based on the accurate information they have. Trevor, for example, silent epidemic other than HIV, like what we have in chlamydia, syphilis, and other sexually transmitted infections, they are not communicated to these children. So find sometimes that the choices and the decision-making, even for younger children that have agency, meaning that they have information, is not really provided in the manner that they will then be able to know that there are more consequences than just a pregnancy that we're talking about today.
Yeah.
I think that there's more we can do. We have started the right way to just make sure that this conversation continues, but there's more we can do.
All right. Lucy, when I asked Masha about stiffer repercussions, I had you asking for who? Obviously for the perpetrators, the man most likely who are beyond the age of 18, but do you think it should apply both ways?
I'm just wondering, in my case, who would have gotten the stiff, like where are the measures, where would have the measures been put in place? Is it for the boy or Is it for me? Because we were of the same age. And I think that's where now we are getting these teen pregnancies.
Yeah.
It's not that the fathers are older. It's not that they are older men who are more aware. Probably 10% of that, but 90% is their age mates. And with that in mind now, for us, we have started, as I said, I come from Dandora, and I work with an organization which I'm the founder and team lead, called Positive Young Women Voices. And through this platform, you'd be amazed how girls are coming out for us to just have conversation, like honest conversations where we are calling a spade a spade.
And what are they saying?
And
curious to know.
The myths that we keep purporting out there, the kids are picking up like sponges and they're taking them through. Like there was this girl and she's very bright. My God, she's so bright. Like I even wanted her to be in our board, just the age issue. And she kept saying that violence, like sexual harassment or violence, let's say when you're walking the streets as a girl and people probably, actually it was rape. If you are raped, is it your fault or the rapist's fault? Or who should be blamed here? Yeah. And she was saying it's the girl's fault because you wore a miniskirt. And she's, I think, 9 or 10. And when she says this, so you can imagine if anything was to happen to her, she will never report it.
Yeah.
And it's because she's been given half information. Information to make her feel guilty, information to make her question herself, information to make her question the people who should go and run to get proper information. So having these conversations has been very important in our community, and I think each community has a responsibility to ensure that this is happening for both girls and boys, not just girls. Because from my perspective, I'm able to give the perspective of a girl, and so is my team. But when it comes to boys, we have very little information what goes in your mind, Trevor. I don't know what you are going through when you are a kid. Even if I tried or started imagining, I would not give it purpose. Yeah. So it's time each one of us takes it upon ourselves as a responsibility instead of placing blame. Yeah. I think we're just past blame. We're at a point where we need all to take responsibility. If you see a parent who is not knowledgeable, what are you doing about it? Yeah. Are you having these conversations in church? Are you even talking of sex in church? Because then we put ourselves in these boxes and end up messing our kids. Because when CSC came and CSC, Comprehensive Sexual Education, we almost passed that bill. But what happened? Who was the first people to fight us? The church, the parents. It's good, yes. You don't want your child to be given. As a parent, that's normal. You don't want your child to be given information they're not ready for. But are you even giving them the information that they need? But you're not giving because you also don't know. Actually, CSC should be for kids, for parents, for persons. Like every single person should have comprehensive sexual education that is age appropriate. Yeah. That's Maureen, how we'll see the end of this menace.
That's interesting. Because, Maureen, you know, parents in our society, it is almost a taboo to have these conversations, especially with 10-year-olds. Are we saying that it is time to do that now? And how far can we reveal the truth to these young people?
Trevor, yeah, I think this issue of teenage pregnancy and HIV, listening to Lucy's story, is something that can be handled in various spaces. We can talk about the behavioral, the structural, and biomedical. And coming back to your question, when we talk about parents talking about sex and sexual health to their children, like Ruth and Lucy mentioned, we talk about age appropriate. There's information you can give to your 3-year-old, there's information you can give to your 4-year-old. When you call their private parts doo-doo or susu, you know you're not giving them the right information. You need to tell them what these parts are called, and you need to tell them what they are for, and you need to tell them what they are not for, and what they should do in case someone tries to touch them inappropriately and stuff like that. Like Lucy mentioned, this girl who is very brilliant, but was told that if she wears a miniskirt, then it's her fault when she's blamed. If you give a child that information, they will not report. And in most of these cases where these kids have talked about, have seroconverted to HIV and they're pregnant as well, it's because they did not get timely addressed to their situation. Because most of them will tell you that it was not consensual sex. It was either coerced or it was rape. And we have biomedical ways of dealing with rape. There is exposure prophylaxis or HIV prevention services and pregnancy prevention services for a victim of rape, including psychosocial support and mental health care.
Yeah.
But these kids do not have this information. So this 10-year-old will be coerced, or they'll have the perpetrator right in their houses. They will not know that they need to report that something happened to them. They'll be blaming themselves. And so, yes, it is right to give these kids information right from the age of 3, when they know how to call the parts of their bodies, like the head, the shoulder, and the knees. We should tell them about all the parts of the body without mincing words and telling them what the parts of the body should do. By 3-year-old, they know that the eyes are used for seeing. They sing that in nursery. The ears are used for hearing. But there are parts of the bodies that they are not told what these parts are used for. Yeah.
Okay.
So these conversations can be begun early enough, and we have age-appropriate information given to the children at home, in church, in school, and every other social setting where they are.
Yeah. Let me bring back Otoa on this. Otoa, you're a teacher, but you say that this is entirely to blame on the parents, but we're talking about age-appropriate information. So a parent saying Turkana or Loitoktok somewhere in there, how will they know what is age-appropriate? Aren't the teachers responsible in a way?
Yeah, you know, Trevor, we depart from reality when we bring in a lot of cosmetic and professionalism and a lot of sobriety. It is high time we called a spade a spade. You know, when crises reach monumental heights, such as this, Trevor, you stop sugarcoating and face reality. I remember growing up and those days, Trevor, the parents made it almost very tough. They passed an effect that a girl, even the bracket that was not acceptable, was almost suicidal. I remember one of my aunts actually running away and seeking refuge some villages, some 4 or 5 villages away to a certain relative, because she knew the ramifications of what that could hold. Now, Trevor, if a mother or a father has a son or a daughter who is actually having a romantic love relationship going on, he's going to support that. I keep on telling my students, you know, you're not joking, you're not playing with lollipops or what. You must know, these kids must be told that when you play with fire, the impact is that you're going to be burnt. Yeah, Trevor, you know, when we talked about introducing contraceptives in schools, and I remember by then National AIDS Control Council we said that since this matter is getting overboard, there was a conversation that let now condoms be provided in schools for that matter. And a lot of non-governmental organizations and lobby groups and all that. And I think, Trevor, we also start getting it wrong when we bring activism in the whole matter. I'm lucky I'm now talking from Tanzania. The late president of this country made a statement to the effect that if a lady or a young man makes pregnant, a lady, a school-going girl pregnant, the two of them must be terminated from continuing school. And let me tell you, when you pass stiffer penalties, I'm not saying that that is what I subscribe to, but
all right. Otoa, I'm sorry, I'm afraid we have a bit of technical challenges with that. But Lucy, do you agree with Mwalimu Otoa Sifuna saying that the law should just be laid down? told, don't do this, period. No negotiations.
No, that's not the way you solve issues.
Yeah.
I'm laughing because he probably has students who are watching, and whether he subscribes to that or not, you can't tell from the way he's speaking. And is that a teacher that you would go to in case an issue was happening? In case you got a girl pregnant, is teacher the one you would go to? Probably not. So when you don't even have places to go and speak, that's where the problem begins. I don't think measures, you know, we have laws, we have policies already, but are they working for us really? No. If you don't know even these policies are there, how do they even help you? Just because we saw what Tanzania did cases now reduce automatically? Did kids now stop getting pregnant just because the laws were there?
Yeah.
No, it did not, because it's not one thing, it's not one issue. So it's just that if you take school out of the equation, now you have solved the problem. We really have to solve the causes, the root causes, and I like what you had put up. Poverty, yes. Poverty plays a major role. Our girls there are stopping going to school because boda riders, we think it's only in the rural, it's also in the urban. A boda driver made her pregnant. She's 12, and it's in the urban areas.
Yeah.
Why? Probably gave her the 50 shillings to go buy sanitary towels. We are still providing sanitary towels up to now in our community. That actually is how you draw in the girls. Yeah. And it's 50 shillings. You think it's very low, but poverty can make you go for that 50 shillings and end up getting pregnant because you don't even know how to speak for yourself. And this is a person who has power over you just because he has bought you chips. And you think chips is chips. It's not that you want the high life. It's because probably that's the only plate you'll eat for that day. And then with social media, the peer pressure of looking and sounding and, you know, posting the best lifestyle. Kids are also becoming victims of it. Yeah. And they end up getting into relationships. We have a girl who was in a relationship with a married guy. She's 16. If we knew that guy, we would have sued him. But why is she getting there? She tells you she just wants to dress well, post well on Instagram. That's peer pressure. Yeah. So there are many root causes. And what we were discussing about parents, and it's me, I keep saying it's because parents don't know. Yeah. Like now we are talking about private parts to your kids. My 6-year-old now can talk of her private parts and there's a song to it. But then I asked about OB when I was 10 years old because it was an advert that kept coming on the TV. You know the beating I got? OB. What is OB? It's a tampon. It's a menstrual hygiene kit that you should know at 10 years because now we have girls starting menstruation at 9, and that's why you're having pregnancies at 10. So there are many root causes that we need to address before we start even putting measures in, you know, strict measures or laws. We have enough laws. Let us deal with this, with the root causes now.
Okay. I have to take a quick break here on Monday Report Town Hall session. It's a bare knuckle conversation. You're just being told the things as they are. When we come back now, we're going to find out what do we do. And Masha started by asking that whose business is it to end teenage pregnancy? So what do we do going forward? That's what we're coming back with in just a bit. Keep your views coming. At Trevor Mbidi at Citizen TV Kenya, I see a lot of them. With the hashtag Monday Report, I'll try to squeeze in as many as I can in the next session, right? See you shortly.